Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
And I am Sam.
and we're on episode 51-ish.
Yeah, it's true. It's last week was episode 50, part 2, but or 2 weeks ago, or today for us as we're recording. But we also, I mean, like we've had so many like those campfire story episodes. I feel
Oh
like we're
yeah.
probably closer. We've had a couple of their two-parters too. I think we're probably closer to 60.
Yeah. I think I actually named this episode 51-ish in Adobe. So,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. No, it gets a little loose.
yeah, I'm just like okay,
Oh,
yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool that we're still here doing our thing,
Very
talking
exciting.
about children's movies, watching our kids grow up.
Yeah.
Mine is in the first grade now, and she is a pain. But I love her so much, but she drew on me with chalk
Oh
earlier
no.
after I'd asked her several times not to draw on me with chalk. Rude.
My son has like a bluey stamp that you're supposed to like put on skin, and he keeps stamping my hand, and it's bright blue. But then like it's a children's thing, so it immediately like smudges most of the way off. And I keep looking down and seeing what looks like these like blue veins in like the way that like you see like old people hands. So I keep looking down and being like, "Oh my god, I'm getting so I can see all my no, okay, that's bluey, that's bluey, thank God." Like my skin isn't translucent yet.
No, we're getting older. You know what made me feel super old today? Um, you don't. I'm just gonna tell you. I was watching some YouTube video. They were talking about the Phantom Menace being re-released in theaters, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the 20th anniversary."
I saw that in
And then they were like,
theaters.
"But you know what? I thought it was the 20th anniversary.
It's
It
the
is not the
30th.
20th, 25th."
25th, okay.
But still, I was like, "Oh no, that's a quarter of a century ago." I
Yeah.
am lurching ever closer to death.
Yeah.
That
So you
movie
know
was
what
not
helps you
great.
with those thoughts? Cocktails. What are you drinking,
Oh
Sam?
my goodness. What am I drinking? I will tell you what I found a recipe for and made the decision not to drink.
I love it. We've done this before. There's precedent.
There's precedent for this. No, I found a recipe for this sounds good, but I think it would kill me, so I didn't make it. Blue frog cocktail,
Ooh.
fitting with the theme. So
Yeah.
this is a half ounce of vodka, rum, gin, tequila, triple sec, and blue curacao with Red Bull and an orange, or I guess an orange slice, which you do in a Pilsner glass. So if you want to make this, fill a tall glass with ice and pour in the vodka, rum, gin, and tequila. You add that triple sec and then the blue curacao. Top it off with your Red Bull energy drink and garnish with an orange slice and a cherry. And I was like, I would totally drink that, but late in the day on a Tuesday, after a really long day at the office, I was like, no, that would kill me. So I'm just having myself a little mini can of Coca Cola.
Yeah, I've definitely had them where I was like, we do this Tuesday night, and there's never a time when you have
Tuesday
Wednesday. You don't get random Wednesdays off. Like
does not
ever.
happen. You have to make a plan in advance.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. That has like a 20% chance of being really good, but I think an 80% chance of going in a horrible direction.
Yeah, like I was like, it's on theme, and I'm gonna pick it. But I also was like, I don't think I don't have a Red Bull. I think I had everything else in the. And I could probably find some energy drink. I don't know, but I was like, no, this would kill me. Oh, it might be out of triple sec too. I had a whole bottle of it, and it fell out of my liquor cabinet and broke like 2 years ago. I haven't bought any more. What are you
Oh.
drinking?
I we did an Australian film for this one.
Mm.
So I looked up what is the most popular cocktail in Australia, and that is
Ooh,
the espresso cocktail. Sorry, the espresso martini is
espresso
the
martini.
and it's really simple. You can do it two ways. You can do this hot or cold. So it's 2 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of coffee liqueur, like usually Kahlua or something,
Sure,
a
babe.
1/4 ounce of simple syrup, and then 1 ounce of espresso. You can either do freshly brewed and hot, or you can use cold brew concentrate and make it into a cold cocktail. Now, no, this is good. I've had my share of espresso martinis
Mm-hmm.
before, but I think if you really want to do it right, break from the tradition of the standard and use a flavored vodka that you think is going to complement it. Like, what kind of coffee what do you like in your coffee? Maybe find that flavor vodka or something similar and just add a little bit more flavor in because
Oh,
the
okay. So you could do
vodka's
like a
there.
caramel.
Yeah, exactly. The vodka's there. You should make it do something besides get you drunk. You know what I mean? Like put in the work. It's
Yeah,
basic.
vodka. Get off your lazy butt and make me drunk in a way that I enjoy more.
An espresso martini is a fancy drink, so you should show up dressed appropriately, and that includes vodka. So they should be a chocolate, you know what I mean? Like some kind of vodka that works with this.
Get the memo about the dress code, vodka. We're having espresso martinis.
Look, if you didn't know that you would need to do this, then you shouldn't be here, vodka.
Vodka, get it together. You have to be presentable.
I have many times before considered swapping out the vodka for whiskey.
Okay.
And I mean, because I've put many a whiskey in my coffee. And
Yeah, we're reaching middle age. It's time to be drunker than we usually are.
yeah, I mean, I think when I was in Ireland, almost every coffee I had liquor in it or whiskey in it, and it was very, very nice. But I don't remember what we're talking about. I went on I diverged so far away that I don't remember
Espresso
the.
mart. Yeah. We were talking about espresso martinis and how we can make them a little bit fancier because vodka is such a boring.
Okay, I
I
think I was
don't know.
trying
I'm
to
not gonna
make a
diss
point
vodka.
there, and I got lost in the tall grass and the weeds. Oh,
We're
the whiskey
dads and
thing. And that's the
right.
thing. I'm not willing to risk screwing up 2 ounces of whiskey or this very nice martini to experiment. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I guess I could just Google it. It would be so simple. I could learn it, but I'm too lazy to.
Oh
Is that a
man.
neurodivergent thing or is that an old and tired thing?
I think older. I mean, like you're describing the way I often feel. So I mean, if it's a neurodivergent thing, that's possible. I think it's just a human thing.
Okay, good.
I think you're okay. I mean, we're all okay. Neurospicy or not, everybody's cool, man. Oh, what term my wife uses.
I've just I've been I've been neurodivergent my whole life, but like when we were kids, there wasn't good terminology or explanations for it. So on Instagram, I got targeted all of these different like groups for that, and I've been learning a ton about it. And I'm like, oh wow, you guys, you made a lot of progress in here. There's words for this, but I'm constantly seeing people's stories and being like, I've got to have something like this where I do something really weird, and everyone's always just kind of not told me. So I'm always
Well,
on the lookout.
I think people these days don't feel like they need to hide um as much as they used to. Like when we were growing up, I think it was everybody people were much more pressured to fit in and act quote unquote normal.
Yes.
Whereas now people are so much more comfortable being able to be themselves. It's allowed a language to develop around it. So there are so many instances, no, looking back and thinking like, oh, my interaction with this person, I thought they were just like a strange person or acting weird or something, and I was like, oh, I realize now that they're probably just on the spectrum,
Yeah.
and it recontextualizes so much stuff that I now have the ability to look back and understand what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And I am happy for kids growing up now who are neurodivergent, who are going to be able to um, see themselves a little better and not feel like they have to act a certain way.
Y-
Um,
Yeah.
it is really good that there's a language. There's so
And
much more language and understandability around it.
and because everyone's in therapy now, because how can you not be? Um, they know all this terminology, so like the information is actually spreading around into the common culture, which is very nice. I'm very happy for these kids. I'm still jealous. I'm not going to not be jealous, but I am very
Yeah,
happy. And like,
at the same time, I think like I'm glad we grew up when we did.
yes, we grew up in a really awesome time
Before
in history pre 2016.
pre Oh, I was just thinking like before our entire lives. I mean, saying this is the podcaster who's putting content on the internet constantly. Uh, but we grew up at a time where before everything we were doing was online.
I didn't
Um,
really have true access to the internet until I got to college.
yeah, I mean, like I had some. I mean, like I had the internet at home, but it was. I mean, like it wasn't like what it is now. It was like up in the family office where you had no
Yeah, the
privacy. It
shared
wasn't as
computer.
good. Shared computer. Oh boy, the things we did on those shared computers that I now think, oh my god, I didn't know how to delete a browser history back then.
It's nuts. The Wild West of the internet when we were kids is it's one of those things where like and I see posts about it sometimes where it's like I explained to my class or this or that like some basic thing from our childhood and like they find it unbelievable. They're like you are fucking with us and they're like no things used to get wild.
I just the amount of times I've had to explain to my kid that I didn't have streaming
That's one of my
growing up.
favorite episodes of Bluey. It's when they
Oh,
do
the '80s
the
episode.
80s episode because I regularly can like point to that now and be like, yes. Like we are so often being like it was the 80s. Hell, during the quest so many times during the quest we said it was the 80s. We'll talk more on that when we get to the film, but there's a lot of it was the
Yeah, just
80s.
guardian negligence. I gotta say parental
Children just
negligence.
like smoking.
Just doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
No, I was my kid had a movie night at school, and it was me and another dad and my daughter and her, friend. And they said something that was like, "Oh, is this like when you were a little kid in the '90s?" I'm like, "No, this is like when I was a little kid in the '80s, going back further." I don't remember even what we were talking about, but it's just like, yeah, I am from the 1980s, deep into the 1900s. But here we are in the 20s,
Yeah,
making it through.
it's the worst part is like if you get carded and they just see the 19 at the beginning, you automatically get in wherever you're going now.
Oh yeah, I don't remember the last time I got carded.
Yeah, I am. I think
I thank whoever cards me. I'm like, thank you for making me feel like you needed to do that.
it
Nice
happened a little
person.
bit back when I was always masked.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but because like I could just be like a kid with a fake beard and a mask over it, as far as they know.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I could see that if you were masked. I don't. You're cardable. I don't think my beard is gray enough at this point. I do not believe unless it is like some sort of mandate from wherever I'm purchasing my alcohol from that I would get carded.
yeah,
If they do that at the grocery store, they make everybody do it just so there's no question. I think it makes sense.
yeah. Now that you mention it, since my gray became more prominent, I haven't even like no one's blinked at me about anything involving age. Like if I'm at the food store and I'm like buying an item that like they're if in self checkout they're like, oh, you need to prove you're 18 for this. Like they don't even ask me for my ID. They just come up and say sir, and
No, I was on a FaceTime call with my dad over the weekend, and my dad's like, "Oh, you got some real gray in your beard," and I wanted to be like, "Thanks."
got it from you, man.
It's like I got it from you. I also got my bald head from you. It's like, why did you do this to me, father?
I always think about that, like, because our parents were in like their 20s when they had us. Not me. My mom was like 35. But
Oh, my parents. I mean, my parents were also um in the 30s. I think my dad was 40 when I was born, and my
wow.
parents were older too.
But like, if we increased our lifespans, at what point are they not like older than us? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, so if we just keep going, so let's say like we live to be 150.
yeah, if your dad is 150 and you're 120,
Are they effectively older than you at that point?
they are,
No, that
but like, does it
doesn't
matter?
matter.
Like, at what
No,
point?
I guess there's a point. The percentage is so small.
Yeah, like, is it when you get below 50% that you, or like 25% or whatever, that you're like, all right, this is just we're peers now, I guess.
I've lived. We've both lived long enough that you're not effectively older than or more authoritative than me, father.
Because yeah, I don't know. I think about it like whenever I watch anime and there's like that one or like D&D, there's like the elves, and it's just like, what's it like for that? But I forget
I
where I was
would
going with
say
this.
effectively never. If it's your parents, never.
Oh yeah, because
Those are the things.
in the Bible, Old Testament, so I guess probably the Torah too, there is a guy who lived to be like 900 and his son lived.
Methuselah.
Huh?
Methuselah. I'm not up on biblical scholars. Yep,
Wait, is that
that's
the
not that.
guy?
Is that? I mean, Methuselah is the guy in the Bible that's like super old.
Okay, because him and his son both got super old.
Oh,
And since I found that out at like the age of 6, I was just like, so they were both in their 800s at the same time. What was that dynamic relationship like?
no, you're effective. I mean, like if we're talking millennia, at that point you're effectively the same age.
Like, if you
Really,
have,
truly, like the percentage is too small.
yeah, all right.
To that point, if your dad just sleeps like a half hour more than you each day, the amount of time that you've been alive and awake is probably more than your father was. I have no, I'm not basing that on any real math. Anyway, cryptids.
Cryptids.
Uh, this week, my state was Louisiana. I couldn't find really too many good ones, but I did end up picking the Letici. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I should have looked it up before I tried to say it just now, but I'm going with Letici, which is a Louisiana swamp monster who is not a Bigfoot. It is described as either a human raised by alligators or the souls of dead unbaptized children who are lost in the swamps. The information about Letici quite vague. Do not know the sources.
Okay.
uh, but I thought a swamp monster seemed appropriate for this week since we were doing a very I would say a swamp based film. If that was a swamp in the quest or a quarry, I don't
It
know.
was an old quarry that had filled up.
That's swamp like a body of like water.
Murky ass water.
So yeah, kind of goes two different ways. I would say the first thing I tried. So I popped this into Midjourney to see what we could come up with. I'm not including all the photos, all the images it generated because some of them were just not things I wanted to put out onto the rest of the internet. The first thing I tried was a child raised by alligators. And the imagery, I was just like, this makes me uncomfortable not doing it. I went with person raised by alligators, and it's literally just pictures of people with alligators. That's the first image you're seeing.
I mean, how do
Which
you raise your alligators?
I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was going to give me. So then I tried person with an alligator head. This looks like some a Midjourney came up with some like it looks like old school Photoshop.
Th-
Not
this
very good.
this would have been like a Radiohead cover in '99 or something like that. Like
Oh sure. Okay.
that is 100% like our high school slash college time frame weird alt music cover.
Yeah, it looks like collage. It looks. This is. I think I don't know what it is. I struggled a lot to try and get Midjourney to give me something I could work with. Um, it really doesn't seem to know how to combine the features of a person and an alligator,
Yeah,
and maybe those kinds of requests just don't come up often enough.
tried to create one just now, and I just made it. I said where gator, like part
Hmm.
person, part gator, and it didn't get the brief.
No, there's a lot I'm not including just because it just they just look like alligators. I was like, this doesn't really fit this segment.
Got some cool images
Then
though. I like these tree boys.
oh yeah. Well, before we get to them, I also did person with the features of an alligator, and I got one that kind of works, which is in this third set, lower right hand side. It kind of looks like uh, a almost looks like a person with alligator skin and like an alligator head sitting in the swamp. That
Yeah,
was
I
the
see
first one that I
that.
was like, I like this one.
That's
Um,
I
the,
think, and it's very good because it's like the typical cryptid shot where it's
yeah,
like everyone's like, "Oh, that's just an alligator at a weird angle in the reflection of the sun." There's no proof. I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what we
that's the
wanted.
one that I think that's the prompt. That is getting to what I read the Letiche as being. The next set I did Cajun Swamp Thing. And these look like big old swamp monsters. These all look like D&D monsters. I think I remember what this is pulling from some D&D source books.
You definitely created the Deku tree from Zelda.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Deku tree. But with like a big mustache.
Bottom left, actually, that looks a lot like uh, Dark Crystal, like the Skeksis.
Oh sure. He's got kind of an extra hand just sort of floating out there
Yeah,
in front of him.
just picking his nose.
Um then I did ghosts turning into alligators. And with these kind of albino looking alligators. I think these are
Ooh.
kind of neat looking, but they're maybe a little dinosaur-y. Um and the last one I did was I think just alligator monster. And those just are big
They're
alligators.
just really big
Again,
alligators.
yeah, it doesn't really seem to Midjourney can't really seem to combine uh alligators and human features very well.
I
But that's
in
what I came up with.
in an attempt to get a alligator ghost, I just did alligator Patronus.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, those came out. Those came out pretty cool. I mean, they look like electric gators.
Yeah, they definitely do. They look like they're about to electric shock you.
All right, we'll include that. But I would say from what I was able to get out of Mid Journey, yeah, set three lower right
Mm-hmm.
is the closest to what I interpreted the description as being. I think if I was gonna pick one to become a cryptid, I like set four lower left, the one we were talking. So it looks kind of dark crystally.
I like it. I like our weird frog-beaked bird monster.
Yeah, he looks like a big old like frog hides out in the swamp. You can't really see him until you get up real close, and you think, oh, is that just a trick of the light? Now it's a giant frog beast, which again, perfectly on topic for this week.
Yeah. Oh man, we should incorporate that into the name.
Um, what was that now?
Frog dreaming.
Frog. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, frog dreaming is the alternate name for quest. Or I didn't look up like the name by country.
Oh, there's like 6 different names by country, but frog dreaming and the quest are the two biggest. Something kids. It's an insane poster for that one. The Go Kids. That's what it is. It's called the Go
Go
Kids,
kid.
and it looks like they ripped off a He-Man cover for the poster. I'm dropping it in the chat for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh wow. Yeah, I'll have to. We'll include all the covers on the Instagram post for this one.
Yeah,
There are a few different ones.
they each get
Anyway,
a
so
little bit.
I'm gonna pick. I'll pick that frog monster as our cryptid.
Okay. Now this is not our first swamp monster. So what?
But the last one was a turtle. This is a frog.
That is correct. And it's not even just a frog. It's like there looks like some like bird in there again, like a skexy or something. But
Hmm.
I don't know. What's he do? Oh,
Um.
I have an idea.
Hmm.
He moves around trees. Like he drags their roots through the mud. So when people try and come back, the path that they took isn't really there anymore. And then they just keep people lost in the swamp by moving the trees around.
Ooh, like a labyrinth.
Yeah, yeah, like Labyrinth.
I'm gonna call it the frog mother.
Okay.
She hides the trees. I don't know why I've decided it's a woman, but I'm
I
gonna
mean,
call it
it.
frog mother.
I get what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I think it's because it has like the humpback and like almost like a cape of moss hanging off of it. It kind of looks like the stereotypical old woman with like her shawl.
Hmm. Yeah, I dig it. That's our cryptid.
Cool.
But we're here to talk about The Quest from 1986,
Not the
starring
1996 one with Jean-Claude Van
Jean.
Damme.
Oh, 1986, 10 years earlier, with Henry Thomas, most famous for E.T.
Yeah, I forgot how big of a career he had as a kid. Cause E.T. is immediately like it's Elliot from E.T., but he was in Cloak and Dagger. The Quest was actually pretty big. Um, he was
I had
in.
never heard about it before you brought it up for the show.
Oh man, everything I looked up like compared it to like oh god, Flight of the Navigator and stuff. It had like that kind of a cult following.
That I've seen. I've seen Flight of the Navigator, but I didn't see it as a kid. I saw it as an adult.
Yeah, I saw it on a lot of lists with like Flight of the Navigator, the Explorers, the Goonies, Monster Squad type of stuff. So it made a lot of lists. It had, and it, I think, made its money. But yeah, he was just in everything when he was a kid. He was in Fire in the Sky, Psycho 4.
I've not seen Psycho 4. I've only
It's
seen
the
Psychos 1
prequel.
and
It's
2.
it's basically what
Oh.
they did. They replaced with the TV show.
Oh, okay.
So he
But
played.
he kind of flew under the radar for a long time as an adult. I feel like he was not really in anything particularly good.
He was in Suicide Kings. But
Okay,
yeah,
I mean that's all right. That's a walk-in movie.
uh, Gangs in New York.
Well,
Uh,
that's where I feel like that. Yeah, so Gangs of York in 2002, and then maybe is it after that where he starts getting better parts again? I feel like it was only in the last really couple of years when he
Hill
started doing a
House.
lot with. Yeah, he started doing a lot of stuff with Mike Flanagan. I think once him and Mike Flanagan kind of became buddies, he kind of came right back. Because he's in a ton of stuff now. I feel like he's in a few things every year. You see him a lot, and I think his name has come back up after a long period of time where he was just Elliot from E.T. in most people's minds.
Yeah, no, he's been really good in everything I saw, and yeah, you're right. He's in Midnight Mass now. He's in the Midnight Club. He's uh just like
He's just doing a ton of horror stuff. Like he's
yeah,
doing a lot of it,
he was in Doctor Sleep. Um,
which
he's
I
all
didn't
over the
see.
horror stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's a good spot for him. I hope that he continues doing things because I like him in everything that he's in. I'm a
That's
big fan of Ouija: Origin of Evil, which is I feel a movie that people kind of didn't notice because it was the prequel to the Ouija movie, and the Ouija movie was not particularly good.
yeah, I didn't see it because
Um,
of that.
yeah, but Ouija: Origin of Evil, the prequel, which is a Mike Flanagan movie, um, it is surprisingly good. It's a surprisingly good 1960s set horror movie. Um, yeah, Henry Thomas is in that. He's really good in it.
So you had
But
never seen this before, right?
no, I had never seen it. I don't know that I had even heard of it. I no awareness of this movie until you brought it up for the show.
Oh man, this was a big one when I was a kid. I saw this a lot of times, and as usual, I remembered the end of the movie being a lot more of the movie.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's kind of meandering.
It's
Is what I would
very
say.
80s. It takes its time. It plays like upbeat, like classical while you pan around the neighborhood and see people going about their day. It's like, okay, come on, come on.
Yeah. So this is to get a little bit of the plot. Henry Thomas is an American orphan living in Australia. Um, it's like a little Australian mining town, former mining town. So like just like a little like podunk nowhere Australia. He's our typical gadget kid. I think is the how I would call that trope.
Yeah,
Um, kind of like who's
he's like
Ke Huy
Data
Quan?
from the
Yeah,
Goonies.
Data from the Goonies. I couldn't remember his name. I could remember yeah, so he's Data from the Goonies, effectively. He built was at the beginning of the movie he's on a train track bicycle.
Yeah,
Like
he
he's taking
creates
a
a
bicycle and that's pretty cool. Which I
yeah,
think that's something you see a lot now on old train tracks. They convert to kind of like tourist attractions.
yeah, and he does like science experiments where it's just like, oh yeah, no, I created a underwater breathing apparatus just by harnessing atmospheric pressure, and you're like, what? You
No,
did?
you did not, child. I saw that in the movie when he builds this contraption. I'm like, you are immediately going to die if you attempt to use this thing. It's like you built like a scuba suit as a child. I'm like, that's not airtight. This
At
isn't
all?
this isn't safe. You're talking about before we started recording, like, where are the authority figures in this movie? I mean, like you see them all over the movie. I feel like he's constantly coming into clash with adults who are trying to get him to stop doing these ridiculous things. And I
But
was like, there's a point where I was like, you really need to listen to them, child. They are trying to keep you from dying.
yeah, and like the other half of the adults are like, ah, we survived. He'll be fine.
This is Australia. You crossed the
Yes,
wrong spider in Australia, and
they
you are doomed.
they do so much bushwhacking in this. They are in the Australian bush just playing, and I'm like, everything I know about Australia is either wrong or these kids should be dead. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, yeah. These kids
What
are in such peril. We keep our '80s trope from similar to the Monster Squad, where the kids are smoking again,
are
just so casual. Like, you bring the food, I'll steal some cigarettes, and it's like, what?
not safe. No, not good. I mean, nobody knew. Nobody knew that cigarettes could kill you in the 1980s. We all thought it was just a cool way to wind down after a long day of being a literal child.
I mean, with the amount of near-death brushes they have, I guess I'd need to settle my nerves too at the end of the day. These
So yeah, and the quest. I don't know that the quest is really a good title for this movie.
It's not.
Because I
I've
don't
never
think they
understood
really
it.
do any questing,
They do.
right? Like, I mean, like maybe a little. There's some quest, like a little bit of questing.
I guess he's on a quest to discover the origins of the Dunkagen.
Yeah, so he is pursuing an aboriginal mythical beast, the Dunkagen, who he believes has taken up residency in a waterlogged quarry that he is exploring.
And he finds a dead man who was apparently frightened to death.
Sure, which made less sense as the film went on.
Yeah. I mean, he was drunk.
That's fair. So yeah, no, I mean this kid discovers a corpse. So in that way, it reminded me kind of Stand By Me. Had a little bit of a, but it wasn't like a fresh corpse. It was a very like completely dried out corpse.
Which
I mean,
threw
this guy
me
must have been dead for a while.
because him dying was the opening, and then you jump to these kids, and I imagined it was like the same day,
That's
and
what I thought. But he is
he's like
wasted
a
away to a
mummy.
skeleton. Yeah. So he's been dead at least probably. I mean, like
Two
I don't
months?
know, a few months, I guess. Like I don't know how long it takes for the creatures of the Australian outback to literally pick a body clean. I'm describing it more graphically than it is because it's still a kids movie. I don't think it's anything worse than you would see in like I don't know, say I don't know what movies have dead have corpses in it. I keep wanting to say Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I don't know that you see any like
Young
yeah I
Sherlock
guess
Holmes.
young Sherlock. Okay,
Also a great Spielberg film.
wasn't it a TV show? I think then they repackaged it as TV movies or something.
No, it was one movie.
Young
Uh,
Sherlock Holmes.
yeah, The Adventures of Young Sherlock Holmes.
But there was a TV show.
I'm sure there was, but the movie was just a movie.
Oh, I'm thinking of Young Indiana Jones, not Sherlock Holmes.
There we go. Yeah, Young Sherlock Holmes was actually it's. I think this is the reason PG-13 movies exist.
I thought that was Poltergeist.
Was it? It was
Maybe.
definitely a Spielberg. Um.
Oh, that was yeah. I think it was Poltergeist. There's a movie we should cover. I
Oh
watched that movie way
yeah.
too young.
I remember watching Jaws 3 when I was like 5. Not 3, Jaws 4. Um. And that night has stuck with me my whole life.
I've only seen the first Jaws, but I've seen a number of
What?
Jaws ripoffs.
You've only seen the first Jaws?
I've seen the Jaws I think that is worth watching.
Oh no, part 3.
That's
Jaws
the
3 takes
3D
place
one,
that's 3D and it takes place in SeaWorld.
which is wild. It's wild that a shark could get loose inside of a water park. That
It's
makes very little sense.
it's so just bizarre and insane and bad and amazing. And it's starring Dennis Quaid.
The better of the Quaid brothers. Sorry, Randy.
And yeah, I mean the director worked on Escape from New York, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He you know, not a bad director. I was reading something about Jaws. We're so off topic. I think one of the writers. Oh wow, that one guy wrote them all, huh? Oh, Richard
I did
Matheson
see what
worked
you're
on part
seeing.
3. Richard Matheson wrote part 3. from
What
Stir of
else did they do?
Echoes. Oh, Richard
Oh, sure,
Matheson?
Becca.
He
Yeah,
did Terror at like 20,000 feet. He did I Am Legend, The Incredible Shrinking Man, um, Somewhere in Time, What Dreams May Come, The Box. Uh, Real Steel was based off of one of his short stories.
the
Um,
Hugh Jackman robot fighting movie.
yeah, yeah, he was a sci-fi and a horror he is one of the people that like created the Twilight Zone. He was one of the original main writers. He is one of the modern. Stephen King nods to him as his influence in horror, like from the generation before him. So he's up there with like
Okay,
Lovecraft
so
and stuff. I've read a lot of Richard Matheson.
and he did Jaws 4.
Just three. The
3.
SeaWorld one. I think he polished the script. I think he made it watchable. But I
I
will
believe
watch.
you.
I will watch anything written by Richard Matheson.
All
But we're
right.
not here to talk
Back to
about
the
Jaws.
quest. We're not here to talk. We digress. Let's go. So Henry Thomas, where do we leave off?
He's a
Henry
gadget kid.
Thomas is a gadget kid. He lives in Australia, and he's found a body, and he's searching for the Donkagen, and that's the question. I mean, like he only really goes to this one location. That's one of the reasons I have a problem calling this movie with the name of this movie being The Quest. He just doesn't go a lot. He doesn't go a lot of places. Like I thought it was like, oh, he's going on a big adventure through the Australian outback, and then he kind of just sticks around his town, which I found surprising.
Yeah, it's also like the whole limestone air thing. It somehow was affecting things like the windmill there and stuff, and they never actually go into like what the hell is happening. Is it when there's wind and the windmill goes, it like powers an underground thing that causes the air to force through? I have no idea.
Oh yeah, so that's the thing about the Donkagen. It's really this is the reel from the end of the movie, so spoilers, I suppose. Um, it is just mining equipment that is
It's an
stuck
old
in this flooded
donkey
lake, and
engine.
it keeps. Yeah, it's an old engine. A what engine?
A donkey engine.
Oh, which makes sense because that's what he calls it.
Yeah, that's how where
So then
donkey
it
came from. Donkey engines were the old did you ever watch the cartoon or read the story? Oh man, my wife's gonna throw a shoe at me when she hears this. Uh, Mike Mulligan and Marianne, the guy with like
no.
the steam shovel. It's like a really big children's book. They animated it. But Mike Mulligan and Marianne's all about how the old donkey engines got replaced because they were coal powered by the new like electrical and gas powered ones. And so that's the old donkey engine that they used to use for as like the front end loader stuff.
But yeah, so it's stuck underwater, and when it like sticks its top up, because they explain that it's like air pressure coming up from the limestone, it looks like a big monster. That's what ended up scaring that guy to death.
Yeah, because it's covered
And
in a
yeah,
century
it's
of
little
muck and
junk.
like junk and mud.
Before Henry Thomas figures this out, that's when he comes up with his idea that he's going to build like an underwater scuba suit out of just junk he has in a garage because he's a gadget kid, and he gets stuck in it. Like I mean, I guess from his perspective, he thinks the monster is eating him. He doesn't know at that point that it's just old mining equipment. And then we have a section of the movie where they're trying to find him. They think he has died, and then his friend, I don't remember the character's name. He has a little
Wendy.
Wendy realizes what it is the old mining equipment, and that he's stuck in an air pocket, which was a giant leap in logic to make. Right?
Well,
She's
she
like,
was like, he
oh,
could still be alive.
right. And then I think at that point, that's when you have to assume there is some. That's the point in the movie where you have to assume there's some level of magic happening here. There's no way, by any right, he should have survived
As
being
a like
stuck
six-year
underwater.
old, I was like, that doesn't make sense.
No, it made no sense. It's like he was stuck underwater in like an air pocket he happened to be able to find within this old mining equipment and was able to breathe down there long enough because it's like it's hours later that they're finally able like, oh, he might be stuck inside this machine. Again, a wild assumption to make, and able to go get him out of it. Because he lost his scuba suit has broken because again he's a child. He should not have gone underwater in his own homemade scuba suit. He by all rights should have died. But I think magic. I think we can assume at that point there is some level of magic.
Well, at the end,
Right.
you do find out that the Donkagen is real, so maybe it
Right.
was keeping him alive.
That must, yeah, that's it. They have this sequence at the end of the movie where he, is visited by the spirit of a Aboriginal man
Charlie
who
Day.
he did kind of look like Charlie. He like summons the what is he? He like summons wind, and it pulls all of the other equipment like in this little campsite around the flooded quarry into the quarry. I don't know exactly what was happening there.
So he had tried to lure it with a bunch of a leg of lamb that he stole,
Right. Because he
and
thought it was an animal.
and it was tied onto like the support beam for the whole structure. So as it took the bait and swam away, it pulled everything.
Okay. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I did not really understand what I was seeing there.
Yeah, because you saw it right on the water's edge because they drained the quarry, and I don't know how because where were they draining it to? The quarry is the quarry because water goes downhill.
Yeah, I didn't get how they were pumping the water out of it. At least not with. I mean, you could do it with enough equipment, but I was like, how did they get all this equipment so relatively quickly
Yeah,
to this remote quarry?
it's just two drunk, grieving, middle-aged men. Like
Yeah, because I thought I thought the kid was dead, like the his legal guardian. I don't remember how their relationship
it
worked
is
and how he ended
his
up.
dead
Yeah,
father's best friend.
that's. I feel like they could have found someone in the United States for him to live with.
Well, they talk about that, so you don't learn a lot, but you do
Okay,
find out that his parents were killed. They didn't die; they were killed. So,
awful.
um, and you know that his they were visiting his dad's best friend Gaza, and Gaza is attempting to adopt him now because the girls actually do ask him at some point. They're like, "Why don't you go back to the United States?" And he was like, "There's nothing for me there. I don't really have any other family or anything. So Gaza is my dad's best friend. He's gonna take care of me." So, and he said he promised him that he would watch him. So I think that implies that at least he was able to talk to the dad before the dad died. But yeah, you never learn quite how it happened.
I wonder how the legality of that is. A
Um,
non-family adoption out of the country.
it was the
It was
80s.
the 80s, so anything went.
That was again. I justified. There's so many giant plot holes in this that you can just be like, it was the 80s.
It was the 80s. Anything really went. And he was good. I like the actor who played Gaza.
Yeah, he was really
It's,
good.
just saying that out loud just now, it's like, oh, what an interesting time.
He just
Um,
died.
yeah, he died in 2002,
22.
2022. My goodness. I don't know. I'm looking through his IMDb now. Tony Barry is the actor's name. I don't recognize anything, so I imagine it was largely an Australian actor, but he was good.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff in this movie that was pretty close to really being good. I don't think it gets there. I don't think I could put this. I mean, like, I think of it as a children's movie. I don't think I could put this on for my daughter and it would keep her attention. Um, a little too slow,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's like all like there's not enough happening in for it to be like a Goonies or a Monster Squad.
yeah, it was
I thought it
very.
was going to be like more wacky. Like I thought there was going to be some shenanigans and hijinks that never really come to be.
I remembered there being more, but again, I hadn't seen this since I was like 10. And so I basically just forgot all the boring parts where they're walking through the woods. Although,
Yeah.
um, his guardian, actually, I was just looking through his IMDb. There is one. Did you ever see Lady Vengeance?
No, I've heard of it, but I've not
It.
seen it.
Have you seen Old Boy?
No.
Either Old Boy, the American with Josh Brolin, or the okay.
I've seen neither Old Boy. When I heard the plot described to me, I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to.
Um,
Or at
Old
least it's close
Boy
to the end of that movie.
has one of the best fight sequences. Um,
Oh yeah,
it's
familiar
worth
with that.
it's worth just you know how in Daredevil in like episode 2 in the Netflix series he has that great hallway fight where it's just one continuous shot.
Yes, that was inspired by Old Boy.
Yes. But Old Boy, I think it's more of like you looking at it like it's Super Mario Bros from the side. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen clips of it.
yeah, so well anyway, Lady Vengeance, Old Boy is part of a trilogy and Lady Vengeance is the second movie or maybe third movie in that uh trilogy. So now I'm like, I have seen him in something else because I was feeling bad. I was like, I haven't seen any of this. Like, but I was like, oh no, he did a big horror movie. Okay. So, what were your overall thoughts for you? Because I think I agree. Like, my kid might be into this when on like a sick day when he's like 8 or 9, but
No, I guess I just wanted more adventure, and it never really gets there. Like looking at the different covers of this movie, with these big like looks like action sequences and like mountains in the background and helicopters. The cover art that they have for this movie is so epic looking,
yeah, he has a
and then
freaking
it's
rifle in the American cover. He never has a rifle.
no, I'm seeing one under the title Frog Dreaming, where he's holding up a flashlight, but they definitely trying to make it look like a lightsaber.
Oh
He's
yeah,
talking about like this big adventure and this big quest, and it's like really he goes to a lake and he tries to figure out some mystery in the lake, and then he kind of does it. I mean, really, it was his friend it was Wendy who kind of figures out what's actually going on. Like Henry Thomas just gets like
Eaton.
yeeted by by old industrial equipment. Um,
He is very
yeah,
good though. Henry Thomas
that was good.
he's such a good child actor. I haven't actually went back and watched any of his movies in adulthood. Um so I'd forgotten like I knew watching like Hill House and stuff I was like wow, he's like really good now, but it's like no, back in like the Cloak and Dagger and the Quest days and stuff, he was a really good actor.
Yeah, but yeah, they just it doesn't. I don't know. It needed more going on.
I
These covers promise a big epic adventure film that the product didn't deliver.
You could cut 20 minutes of this without really affecting anything and then just like add more action into those 20 minutes because there is you could easily trim 20 minutes from this.
Oh sure. This movie does not have enough plot to fill out an hour and a half. There's a ton of padding.
Yeah, there's a lot of padding and I'm like you could have put like cuz he has this entire mini arc where he like goes to the aboriginal people and like goes off just jumping up from boat to boat with them, having them take him farther into the bush to meet this guy who might know about the monster. And it's like that whole scene was like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
I mean I hardly even remember that. And I watched this movie 2 days ago.
And there is a thing when he gets on the first boat, you see a bunch of the others like starting to like go over his bike, and you're like, okay, when he gets back, his bike's gonna be like stripped or whatever. And no, he just gets back, his bike is there. I don't know what the whole point of people like starting to take his bike apart was, besides kinda racist.
That's true.
This movie is also low key racist. And
Yeah,
you just have to be
again,
like,
that's a
it
big
was the
problem with the 80s.
80s. Oh, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like they refer to all the Aboriginal as the blacks. And it's just like, ooh,
Like, oh, that's not cool.
that's not cool. It's just like, but that's how they talked in 1984. Like, I had a sick day last month, and I just randomly, like, I've been thinking how I miss, like, being able to just. I haven't had cable in over a decade. Just like turn on FX in the background and just have like a movie that you don't care about playing.
Hmm.
And so I have like a playlist for sick days now that are like dumb nothing movies. And
Oh, sure.
yeah, and I went to put on Crocodile Dundee because I was like, when's the last time I saw Crocodile Dundee? But that was one of those things where if it was on TV growing up, you'd probably watch at least a little bit of it.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever like sat down and watched Crocodile Dundee. I just know it because it used to be on TV when we were growing up.
Everyone's seen the entire movie in clips. And oh man, yeah, I was like, ooh, this didn't age well. And that was made about the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean you watch anything from the 80s or 90s, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff that is. I don't want to like dismiss it and be like, oh, it's just 90s, it's problematic. It's just like, no, it was not. There was stuff that was there that was not okay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, he's really chauvinistic in Crocodile Dundee.
but yeah, it's an okay movie. I don't know how much of this I'm going to remember a week from now. That's what I would say with
I'm,
Quest, aka Frog Dreaming.
as
I think
usual,
Frog Dreaming makes more sense as the title.
I looked up frog dreaming and it a bunch of articles says it's based on like an aboriginal myth or whatever, but literally not in like 3 Google pages worth of results there was nothing about the actual myth
Mm.
or any indication that it was at all real. But
No, I mean that tells you.
yeah, but as usual, I say this like all typically when I recommend whatever we're gonna watch, you know I recommended it that week because I'm like I'm
Hmm.
glad I revisited it because it's lived rent free in my head for so long. But it's like now I think I can put this ghost to rest, and I don't know if I ever really have to hang out with the quest again.
No, I think you can call it a day on the Quest.
But I do have a nice weird sense of closure.
No, that's good. You got a chance to revisit it, something that was important to you, and you realize now it's like, oh, this didn't hold up. But that doesn't mean like your memories of it from growing up weren't good. No, it's just like it was important to you in a certain way at a certain time. It's just that time has passed, and I do not think it would keep the attention of today's sort of kids.
Let's talk quickly about the spooky factor because I recommended this because I remembered it being a lot scarier when really there's like the very end and there's like a few quick moments that are like a little stressful in the middle. But yeah, I vividly remember just those moments and was like, well, the movie's clearly a horror movie when it's more of like an ET experience.
Which makes sense because they were banking on people coming to see Henry Thomas. You'd see it all over the old advertisements, like ET's Henry Thomas.
Yep.
Um, no, there was so. I mean, like that opening sequence with the man who they eventually find as the skeleton had a little bit of scariness to it. When now you do catch a glimpse of the Donkajin before realizing it's actually industrial equipment, the way that they dress it up, it does look pretty spooky. It looks like a big lake monster
Yeah.
with a long neck and a big mouth. Even later in the movie, once they realize what it is and you get a better look at it, I think I think it's a giant puppet. I don't know exactly how they did it, but I think it looked good. And it looks spooky. Um, and it's right here. I'm looking at a cover of the movie, and they have like its neck and head sticking up, and it looks like a big, like a Loch Ness monster type.
Yeah.
I think the special effects were pretty good for what
I
they did. I think they used the special effects effectively, considering you don't
Yes.
really see much of it.
They were really good at using practicals and mixing that with like camera angles and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if your kid is like not into super spooky, but you kind of want to gauge them and they're into more just like almost slice of life adventure because you have a weird kid, um, maybe try this. But otherwise, you know, you can probably move on to others.
But yeah, I'm glad we watched it. It's good to experience something like this. I think, even if I'm not going to, I'm not going to watch this movie again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it on my Plex for posterity. But yeah.
Well,
Okay.
to wrap it up, if you've seen The Quest, aka Frog Dreaming, aka Go Kids, I think I saw one. It was The Spirit Hunting. I don't even know. Um, and you have thoughts on it? Let us know. You can talk to us on Facebook and Instagram at RTSpiritsPod.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Steve.
And I'm Sam.
Night.
See you next time. Good night.